Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this year's Cambridge International Symposium on Economic Crime. Despite the fact that we are only here electronically, you'll see that the marquee is up. The grass hasn't been greener with all the rain that we've been having, but at least the sun is out and the sky is blue. So my subject for this morning is cyber and the virus, and I'm Richard Parlour from Financial Markets Law International. So without further ado, let's move on through the presentation. And the first thing I was reminded of when the symposium was hit by the coronavirus was a quote from Winston Churchill at the end of World War II when he was involved in setting up the United Nations. And his famous quotation there is, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." So let's have a look and see how the coronavirus has been having an impact on cybercrime. So what I'd like to do is to run through the changes to the threat profile of cybercrime. Secondly, what to look out for as your own sort of cybercrime vulnerabilities change. And then thirdly, how to protect yourself better against this changing threat, whether you go to the innovative extent as our friends in India in this picture have gone, or you've got other methods of protection. Anyway, in terms of threat profile changes, we've seen a massive rise in corona-related sort of electronic fraud, and that has gone up hundreds of percent in virtually every country around the world. And it's not just phishing, but we've seen a rise in smishing, so that's the social media version of phishing, vishing, so that's the video version of phishing, and it's people essentially setting themselves up pretending to be somebody from the World Health Organization, from the US CDC, from the European ECDC, somebody pretending that they've already got access to a new vaccine which might help you, somebody pretending to have the latest government directives about which countries you're allowed to go to or not allowed to go to, what the latest lockdown measures are going to be, and so on and so forth. So whilst a lot of ordinary companies or good companies have been trying to work out how to cope with the virus and move their business around, well, so have the criminals. And they've been extremely inventive, and they've been moving much more online as well. Earlier on in the coronavirus, I'm particularly sickening as seeing various cyber attacks on various hospitals, and not just the hospitals, but on the supply chain. So we've seen an awful lot of fake test kits being circulated, very substandard PPE, the personal protective equipment, ranging from masks to gowns to ventilators and so on. And this will give you some idea about how insidious this has been. So Google, for example, has been blocking 18 million scam coronavirus emails every day. And in the UK, the National Cyber Security Centre has been taking down hundreds of fake coronavirus online shops. And in March, back in March of this year, it took down 471 of them alone. So this is getting quite dramatic. A lot of people, we saw a rush on people trying to buy toilet rolls and those disappearing from various shops, followed by various other goods which went into very short supply for quite a while. You couldn't get hold of any eggs, you couldn't get hold of any flour. Well, similarly, in the criminal world, they had a bit of a rush as well. So there's a big spike in narcotic sales just before lockdown. And then there's a bit of an issue because some of the banks were closing and the drug cash was piling up, and it was getting quite difficult to get that through the money laundering sort of system. So what have they been up to instead? There's a lot of drug trafficking going on via various sort of social media. We can go into that in a bit more detail, but maybe that's for a different presentation. In Italy and various other countries where there are mafias, they've been making food donations to those who need it. Of course, that's very good in terms of increasing support for you locally. And they've been carrying out their usual sort of activities in a similar manner to normal. So you'll see in Mexico, for example, that mafia-related deaths are still happening at the rate of 100 a day. Increases in trafficking, that's not just drugs, but that's people, that's arms, that's wildlife, which has been taken illegally. So pretty sickening increases in trafficking and lots of the sort of lockdown stuff when only various sort of food supplies and medical supplies have been getting through. Well, guess who's been piggybacking on the back of that particular kind of traffic? So lots of activity in terms of threat profile and massive amounts of corruption and cronyism in the PPE sector, and that seems to be in pretty much all countries as well. So there's going to be an awful lot of investigation needed. Hopefully it'll be funded once we get through this and see what was happening and bring those to book who've really exploited the situation rather unfairly. So that's one side of the equation, the threat side. What about the vulnerability side? Well, we've been trying to stop people going and circulating around, so there's been a massive increase in people working from home. And this has been a bit of a challenge in very many respects, not just in relation to individual IT skills, but then there are other things which happen. So when you've got your other half and other people at home and your housemates or your children, they've got other interests and priorities, and they need to get on and do that as well. So you've either got to cope with reduced or contested bandwidth, and what do you do at certain times of day, for example, and how is it possible to work from home and still be productive? Of course, you've cut down on commuting time, and that has been a bit of a boon for certain people if you've managed to survive that. And there has been a big increase in people, including myself, looking at how you use the electronic world more effectively for your business, and taking lots of sort of mini courses which have been made available over the internet. In certain respects, home computer kits might be worse than what you have access to in the office, but it certainly doesn't have to be this way. And we've seen a bit of a spike in terms of people improving the quality of the laptops that they've got, or the desktop sort of kit that they've got at home, and huge spikes in searches on words like office chair, for example, or office desk, as people suddenly realise it's very difficult working from the breakfast table or working from the dining table. Particularly when there are other people who want to have access to the internet. One of the other big issues with vulnerability is that your home kit might be less secure than the office kit. And of course, your IT department is a bit further away now, and you can probably only access that electronically, and they too might be ill. They might too have to take certain other measures or cope with different changes to their working profile. So they're quite likely to be overstretched. So there'll be quite a few vulnerabilities in terms of cyber, which have arisen during the current coronavirus situation. So how do you go about increasing protection? How do you become Superman or Superwoman in terms of getting your cyber protection up to speed? Well, first of all, it's a matter of keeping alive to changes in the threats. There's quite a bit of stuff being circulated around on the internet about what the threats are, and I've given you a flavour of those just now. But really, it's the question of increasing your own protection. So here's some really useful tips. First of all, carry out Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, or whatever the equivalent programs are which might apply in your country. And even if you think Cyber Essentials will only apply to the UK, a lot of it is so generic that actually it doesn't just apply to people who are living and working in the UK. It's very, very useful to other people as well. So check out those two programs, because there's lots of really interesting and useful stuff about what you can do. But in terms of increasing protection in this time of the coronavirus, have a look at what your home rules should be. So you've probably got a whole load of office rules, and you need to probably translate those through into homes. So what do you do in terms of rules for other members of your household? And how do you try and make sure that people don't interrupt you on various electronic calls that you might be making, and various other aspects of working from home? So when are you going to be working? When is the lunch break going to take place? When is downtime? When are you going to be doing home education? All this, that and the other. If you've got a bit of routine, you'll be able to cope with it much better. And that will also not just help your computer health, but also help mental health and running the home a bit better as well. So my advice is also to use the best computer kit that you can. If you are umming and ahhing about what sort of level of computer kit to get, I would always say go for the higher end of the stuff that as you can, without going overboard. You need something to do something. An awful lot of software around the higher end stuff has a massive amount of functionality, but do have a look at that extra Gucci sort of functionality that it's got, and work out whether you're actually going to be using it or not, because you may well have a better solution which is much simpler and gets you from A to B quicker. But in general terms, certainly on the hardware side of IT kit, if you go a bit higher end, then this will future-proof you to a certain extent and will help you in terms of IT quality and longevity. Remember to use physical firewalls as well as software ones. If you've got home Wi-Fi, then do check that out. Do check that it's not still protected with the password it came from the supplier with, and do change it around, give yourself a little bit more protection from that. An awful lot of people are using their smartphones much more than they used to. Do remember that people can attack your smartphone as well, so that also needs antivirus and security on it. There's an awful lot of people who tend to forget that bit. And sadly, it's not just the online crime, cybercrime, which is increasing, but it's the offline stuff as well. So burglaries are likely to increase, and the police in most countries have only got the capacity to investigate some of them. So you do need to take some steps to secure your home as well. Well, that was a very quick canter through, but that was probably about the maximum amount of time I would have been allowed had I been on the podium in the marquee. So here's a helping hand for various other things in the time of the virus. We've put together a little series of 6 key elements of survival for you and your business in this time of coronavirus, and run those as a couple of webinars, or there's a series of more detailed ones if you wanted to run through those. And the other thing that we've done is to translate that into an ebook, which has got some exercises for you to do as well. And that's really focusing on how to bring you and your business out of lockdown successfully. So do feel free to have a look at fmli.co.uk/survive. So the emphasis really is looking at what you need to do to survive, and then how you can think about turning the current situation around, so you not only survive, but in the next new normal, whatever that's going to be, you've got a better chance of thriving. And that's quite exciting for the future, but also carries with it quite a bit of danger, because as we've explained in this short presentation, the criminals have moved online as well. So I hope that was useful. Thank you very much indeed for listening. Do keep in touch, and if you'd like to keep in touch, here's my details on screen now. So have a great rest of the day, and stay safe.